Good evening and welcome to a Monday Night Live here at Precision Golf. Simon and I taking your questions and everything golf coaching and club equipment. Good weekend, a lot of golf was played. Germany, Germany, US, bit of America with the ladies, and yourself getting drenched out on the golf course.
Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, just sport at the moment. I mean, the other thing, just all the other sports going on as well. And we've got the Olympics coming up. We have F1. There's Wimbledon. There's it's pretty good.
It is. Let's talk about Ewan Ferguson winning on the DP World Tour. I know the golf course, we played it last week actually, didn't we? We played 9 holes on it. It's a good test. Bernhard Langer said farewell to European Tour golf in Germany, which was a really nice touch. A lot of nice things being said about him from likes of Thomas Bjorn and Padraig Harrington. What's Bernhard Langer meant to you as a golfer?
I think, well, growing up, so I started really playing a lot more early 90s. So kind of when he was winning, 93 Masters, that was when just I was starting to really get really interested in the game. And I think he was just a stalwart of Ryder Cup and a big name player on the European Tour. And him and Seve and Faldo and Woosnam and Lyle were kind of taking the fight to the Americans in the Ryder Cup. And so, big supporter of his. And to see him go through the troubles he went through with his putting at that point as well, and to still be able to go out and win the big tournaments. I mean, the mental strength is kind of what I would think of him as, a real kind of tough competitor.
Very much so. Nice to see the likes of Matthew Southgate got into the Open. No surprise, went on and played very well in Germany. Connor Syme as well, he's making a nice career for himself. A lot of good players. Ewan Ferguson, how much do you know about him and his game?
Honestly, not a lot. The name I know of, but I wouldn't, if someone said about Ewan Ferguson, I don't know an awful lot, quite frankly.
Strong player, been out there a little while looking for a win, and did it in some decent fashion, winning by a couple. Would have been pleased to get that over, and obviously he's gone up. There's some significant places on the DP World Tour, Aldermary up to 16th now.
And some big names just behind him as well. I know Jordan Smith had a good week. He's someone who's always up there, and you kind of feel like a name that you'd like to see winning a little more often.
100%. Obviously, PGA Tour, for those of you that may have catched it, I was on Sky Sports the weekend covering that event. Fantastic event, fantastic golf course. Although we were talking in the studio, the scoring was awfully low, wasn't it? I mean, 28 under par. I'm not sure how comfortable a tour course would be about that sort of scoring and how enjoyable it is to watch. I think this early few days, I think it's quite good fun seeing them go at the flag, but I think it then just became a complete birdie fest. Having said that, a great winner, Davis Thompson, really played stellar golf on the final day. Done quite a bit of research with the stats and things, and he's a guy that has just been over the last 18 months incredible. Are you familiar with him, his golf too much?
Again, not a huge amount, and a name I've heard of.
Yeah.
But
so many new names on tour.
Again, I wouldn't be able to say, oh yeah, he's done this, that, and the other, always been up. But there are so many players who have the ability. I think on a week like this as well, where it's a scoreable course, there are so many of them that can get hot, and that's a week if you get hot and you're just seeing the pin the whole time. Conditions-wise, clearly allowed them to be aggressive, and you know what, these boys when they get in the mood, there's no stopping them.
Yeah, correct. Of course, as usual, we're taking your questions. We've got both the iPads right in front of us. We're going to get into that in a moment. We've got James on drums as usual, and we've got little Barney. We didn't get him in last week. We're going to try and get him in and have him run around. Let's take a few early questions from the Precision Golf channel.
I can answer what you do when you're playing in the rain. I've got good experience of that this weekend.
Yes. We've, as Brits, we've had a very, very good experience of that in the rain.
Especially this year.
Doug says, last question, honestly, question on shortening a driver shaft, say 20 millimeters, all off the butt, all off the tip, or 50-50. Pros and cons of each. Thanks in advance.
I mean, if you just take, I mean, 20 mils is sort of about just over half an inch or so, if you work in imperial, and that's going to stiffen the tip of the shaft up a little bit. Now, it's not a vast amount, but if you take it off the tip end, yeah, it just firms it up. In theory, drops the spin a little bit. If you take it all off the butt end, then you're not firming the tip end up, you're just shortening it down. Either way, if you do not make sure the balance of the club is correct after you shortened it, doesn't matter which end you take it off, you're not going to strike it very well. So in principle, if you take it off the tip and you add a bit of weight to the head, then the flex stays fairly similar, but the shorter tip spins it a little bit less, but it's so minuscule. If you're shortening it, it's to get a better strike. So off either end is going to benefit that.
Very good. Papa B, hello young men. Very nice of you to say. Very nice of you to say. I've heard that most tour players want a single shot shape with driver. Can you show how club fitting can result in a single shot shape, or is it all swing mechanics? You're the best.
That's very kind. And you're never going to give, just through equipment alone, one shot shape, because the player can always manipulate the way around it. Equally speaking, for the best players in the world, they've got a two-way miss if they put the wrong swing on it. So you can't eliminate one side of the course. You can help reduce the effects of a certain miss. So if you were trying to minimise the effects of a left to right shot, then there are heads like, it's a lot of it's in the head, but a lot of, heads like the Callaway, the Max D, the drawbars one, then that gets the toe coming through and it's going to minimise the effects of an open face. You can use shaft weight and balance point to create enough of a drop in to open the face up a bit more, or to bring the balance point up to make it easier to square the toe in. But the player will always dictate what the pattern of shot is, and you can just merely try to minimise the effects of it.
And from a swing mechanics perspective, if someone was consistently a couple of degrees close face to path and they're always drawing it, it wouldn't take them much to just whip one out the heel and they're suddenly hitting a fade down there. So it's a very romantic idea that we're just going to hit one shape when you're on, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you can't negate the fact that you're going to misstrike one at some point. Just depends on how much you misstrike it relative to your swing mechanics. But a good question, nevertheless. Niels Axelson, nice to have you with us, Niels. He asked, what a colour splash of summer on my screen. Yeah, we are. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure about it actually. To be honest, it looked like a fruit salad.
Right.
It looked like fruit salad.
Fruit rose and tulip.
Sort of try and pretend that it's sunny out there.
Yeah, I'll go change to match the summer outfit. Brilliant. You stick a nice pair of bright shorts on, Niels. Addy Rayo, hi Simon and Stuart. Good evening. I have an equipment technique question. I'm having an issue with low spin with my irons. Yesterday I measured 5.5 spin with an 8 iron at 83, 85 miles an hour. My delivery numbers are 23 degrees of dynamic loft, 4 to 5 degrees down with a P7 MC. Can I solve the spin issue with equipment or address the shaft lean?
So from an equipment point of view, unless you do something with you're not playing a low spin head, and you're not overly steep onto it from an angle of attack point of view, particularly with an 8 iron. So the majority of your low spin is down to that shaft lean and or kind of shutting face, depending on what your face to path is at that point. So most of it is technique. The ball is the one area where if you're playing a low spin ball, you can go to a high spin ball. If you're playing a Pro V1, go to a Pro V1X. That'll pick 3 of 100 revs of spin up onto it. You can add a bit of loft potentially to your clubs to get some of that dynamic loft back. But in this instance, over to you.
Yeah, it's a technique thing. You clearly got probably a strong face to path value, probably ahead of it as well. And whilst you're only saying that you're 4 or 5 degrees down, I'm tipping that you are a bit of a hook face player. You're getting ahead of it, trapping it, and you're really dragging the loft down. So I would say it's all technique. Once you balance that up, then you'll be able to start to create a bit more spin and launch. So definitely technique. Of course, without seeing you, impossible to particularly quantify exactly where that area would be. But I would look to reducing your face to path value if you're seeing a draw, I would start to work on a bit of a fade, then take off some angle of attack, and those two things will balance each other out. And without changing too much, you'll be able to get a bit more loft and a bit more spin for sure. I love Turtle, getting raspberry ripple vibes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, yes.
It's not quite strawberries and cream for Wimbledon, is it?
We've really got to start
nearly,
chatting with what we're going to wear in future. Horse racing legends, great to have you with us, sir. Great to see Stuart on Sky. Looked right at home and some nice swing tips. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Paul M, evening gents. Borrowed a Stealth 2 3-wood and love it. Shaft feels just right. Ventus Red 6S. Is there an equivalent driver, shaft or one with same profile? Do same shafts work in 3-woods and drivers?
Same shaft and 3-wood and driver often don't work. The driver's longer, so actually it plays heavier in the driver because essentially you've got more shaft. So that's why often there's a weight progression from a lighter driver shaft into a heavier fairwood, into a heavier hybrid, into heavier irons as the shaft gets shorter. But where the head sizes are different, you often need a different profile of shaft for the driver as well, because on a fairway wood you want a bit of recovery to get a bit of flight and spin. On a driver where the heads are bigger, you're looking for generally a slightly more stable shaft to stop a deflection. As you've got more head scale, the distance of strike away from the shaft's more, therefore it can deflect more if you mishit it. So it's rare to play the same shaft. If you're playing the stock Ventus in that Stealth 2, it is not a Velocore model, it is nowhere near as stout, so it's actually a more responsive version anyway. So if you're in a 65 gram shaft in your fairway wood, look to kind of 55 to 60 grams in the driver, but outside of that, it's very, very hard to say, oh, if you're in that in the fairway, you should be in that in the driver, because it's different player to player. And 90% of tour players play a different profile in their fairway wood for that reason as well.
Going to head over to the Good Golf Coaching channel. Chris Johnston, nice to have you with us. Chris, evening gents. How accurate is the Mizuno Swing DNA for irons? My angle of attack is shallow, one down, very short backswing. Play I230 PX IO 6.0. Mizuno want me in a 130 gram shaft. Do struggle with strike currently.
If you've watched this before, you'll know my opinion on these, and the answer is I wouldn't trust it as far as I could throw it, because
he can throw,
and it's just it's something that clips onto the body, or is built into the body of the shaft here. That cannot tell you how you move it. In principle, it's trying to measure a stress level on the shaft, and it might be able to detect a certain amount of, from the gyros inside, a certain amount of shaft lean. But if you've got a short backswing, going heavy generally isn't a good thing. If I, as a little bit of a kind of comment on it, if you've got a short backswing and you're trying to develop speed, light lets you clear through. If you play heavy, of which Stuart's heavier than what I play, is if you've got a short backswing, you haven't got time to effectively kind of collect the club and rotate, it's going to tend to get behind you and there's no time to catch up. So more often than not, for a more compact swing length, you tend to see a lighter total weight than you do for someone who's got a long rangy one, especially if you're then trying to develop a little bit of speed with it. So 130 grams for a short backswing length sounds awfully heavy to me.
Good insights. Chris Johnson says, I'd love to come down for a proper fitting, just a trek from Carlisle. Well, listen, we've got a lovely Brooklands hotel around the corner. Come down, make a couple of days of it. We'd be love to have you with us.
If you consider your journey times probably less, or around the same as a round of golf, but the amount of extra enjoyment on a round of golf, and the many rounds of golf you play, time well spent, I think.
Absolutely. Doug asks or comments, great to see you on Sky Sports, Stuart. Thank you, Doug, appreciate that. Your one-handed driver swing drill, my favourite. On Saturday I did this and it worked a treat for me on Sunday, shooting a net 69 battling a 30 mile an hour plus wind at Seaford Golf Club. Great news.
bad enough inland, let alone on a links.
Well, I mean, that's obviously paid for your Sky subscription right there. Gary Satterfield, oh my goodness, here he is. Nice to have you with us, Gary. Hey guys, how's it going? Hold on, Stu, let me get my sunglasses. That yellow shirt is stellar. Hey Simon, just out of curiosity, have you ever done fittings where you say to yourself, please come back after you get a golf lesson from Stu?
Yes, and I've said that to people in the fitting as well. So ultimately, from a fitting standpoint, I know if I'm not getting the results that I'd want to see, or that if I was the person in the bay themselves that I would want to see in that position either. So ultimately, we want the best for the player no matter what the result is. Actually, sometimes leaving here without buying and saying, right, actually, if you can just work on this in your swing, then we'll be able to maximise what we can do with the clubs as well, is the best thing you can say to someone, because actually, that then facilitates a much better fit in the long run. So 100%, I wouldn't necessarily word it that way, but 100% that is something we say to people in the main, not on a regular basis. It's not an uncommon thing for us to say.
Bammer number 1, good evening gents. I'm having trouble controlling distance coming out of a bunker. What keys should I use to help with this issue? Well, it goes without saying, the first one is the amount of sand you take, how early you get into the sand. And there's a couple of ways people get into the sand. The most common one is often the leading edge. And of course, you get that leading edge digging and you can scoop up a whole lot of sand very, very early. What you're looking for is some reasonable loft in a bunker shot. And the only way that you can really go about doing that is by making the club swing down at bottom. Down at bottom, that sounded a bit northern, that, didn't it? and I like a northern accent. And so
we're spending too much time with Nick Doherty.
Yeah, and so allowing that golf club to feel like it can swing down at the bottom is a key component. And actually, the chap Gary Satterfield actually asked a question last week on bunker play about getting consistency of sand. What we tend to do is when we get caught up in a bunker shot, we tend to go down into the sand too much, which invariably will drive the handle in. It'll lean the shaft forwards and get that digging edge into the sand, which makes it really difficult to feel like you're moving through the sand. So my tip is always to, first of all, you want to feel like you're getting some expression of force up in a bunker shot, really feeling like you're standing out of the shot, because if you were to stand out of a shot, it would actually mean that the lever would have room to unload. And when the lever unloads, it all of a sudden exposes a bit more bounce for you, a bit more loft. But not only that, it really makes the bottom of the arc much higher in the sand so that you only take the top surface of the sand. And in most golf courses, they have too much sand. They just pile it in, or very little. They pile it in, they dump the truck in, and all of a sudden you've got too much sand and you're having to whip it off the top. And equally, vice versa, if you haven't got enough sand, then you make it play the other way. You use the front edge of the golf club. You feel like you dig a little bit more. Don't feel like it's one size fits all with a bunker shot. You've got to use the leading edge if it's a little bit low, compacted sand, low in sand, compacted sand. And if there's loads of sand, you're looking to use more of the back edge. So 2 different shaft profiles coming into the shot, a bit more shaft lean for light sand, and lots of sand, a bit more shaft lean away from the target. But both of those 2 ingredients are creating different radius of the golf swing. And I don't want to get too complicated here, but if I was to set up to this wall, and if I was to come in with shaft lean, can you see the gap between the club head and the wall? It's increased. And so therefore, I'm going to have to feel like I'm going to have to go to the golf ball with the handle. If, however, I make a golf swing and I feel like the arc has widened, now all of a sudden the club head is much, much closer to the wall, and now I have to feel like I need to stay tall to collect it. So this leverage that we have down at the bottom of the swing, whether we're creating shaft lean or getting rid of shaft lean, we have to be very conscious of what we are actually about to apply, and then feel like either I'm standing taller for the one that's going to swing, or I'm going to feel like I'm going to go down to it a little bit more for the one that I'm going to dig. Now that's quite a broad spectrum that I've covered there, but hopefully you're understanding that this game is not a mystery, but we need to understand what we're going to go into the bunker with in terms of the shot selection based on the lie that we have, based on the shot that we want to play. And so understanding that lifting the base of the golf swing up is a leg situation and a swinging of the lever. And if you need to dig it, it's a bit more of a shaft lean forwards and using the front edge. And hopefully you've got something in there that will help you improve your bunker play.
But I think, as you said there, reading the lie and knowing,
it's crucial.
You know, and you've got to use your feet to gauge,
Hopefully
around at what sort of sand conditions are in. But reading that lie dictates the rest of it.
100%.
That dictates the shot pattern or the shot type, what you're able to do with it. You know, like wet sand at the weekend, you know, I know you've got to thump into it a bit more, but the ball comes out hot. Once you start to understand that, that helps you play much better golf because it's more known what's going to happen, and you can improve your strategy from that.
Andy Corso, treble fruit salad attire today, boys. A tree ball. So let's get back to Ryan Thorpe. Evening, chaps. This question may be for both of you. I have a tendency to get flippy and get stuck behind with my driver, hybrid and 4-iron. However, with my utility iron and 5-iron down, not so much. Is this likely to be a fitting issue or more a technique issue? Bit of both.
Answer a bit of both, yeah. I mean, if the club gets behind you, from an equipment point of view, it's likely to be weight. If it's the hand length getting behind, then the dead weight of the club, the total weight of the club is likely to be too strong because as you fire from the top, it doesn't come with you, so it gets your hips turn out the way and then get stuck, and then you've got to flip at it. So from a club point of view, that's likely the first thing that I'd be looking at to solve that.
Very good. David Langley asks, how was Club Champs, Simon?
27 holes good, 9 holes bad. Now, it was good, played well, was level, joint leader going to the last 9, and then missed a few shots in the wrong place. And I think the fair phrase would be hemorrhaged. Finished 5th in the end, played well, hey ho, got soaked, never mind. Aidan asks, are the T150 heads heavier than other brands? I've tried the ZX7. I've missed out a question. I'll come back to you, Martin. I've tried the ZX7 in the same shaft, etc., but it feels heavier. Are the 923 Tours or forged similar from Mizuno? So the T150s potentially there are tolerances with all of them, and you could have a heavier tolerance head. But the T150s have a lot of tungsten in the heel and the toe, so even at the same mass, with the amount of weight in the toe, they can swing a little heavier than some because the mass is further away from the shaft, so it can feel a little heavier. The Mizunos in the main are a hair lighter, but yeah, the 150s probably sit very slightly on the heavier side with the amount of tungsten that's in the sole.
Yeah, very good, very good. Dave Hurley. Good evening, Dave. No, I'm coming back to you, Dave. Martin first. Can you test the Srixon Zedstar and the Srixon Zedstar XV balls, please? I think that Martin asked this last week. Yep. We will do that.
Iron or dry. I'll do it with an iron.
Do it with an iron. If you are new to our Monday Night Live, we do this every week, 6 p.m. Simon and I, James on drums, Barney chewing his biscuits. We do this, take all your questions, and we like to get down and dirty, hit some shots, and sometimes we play some holes. We might do that, play a couple of holes in a little bit. So do get your questions in, do get your requests in, we will gladly answer. I'm going to show you one little person. Got the monster here this evening, good old Barnabas, the mascot of Good Golf Coaching. He's made the odd appearance in the odd golf video on my channel. Loves to lick everybody in sight. But 1-year-old working Cocker Spaniel, and he's doing well. He's a lunatic. Anyway, thought I'd just share that with you.
Right, so I'm going to add the Zedstar Diamond into the mix as well. So I'll start with standard Zedstar. So in principle, Zedstar is the kind of mid-launch, mid-spin. Zedstar XV with irons is the kind of the slightly lower spin, but then the Diamond spins it a little bit more. So that's the theory of it. So I'm just going to do it with a 6-iron. So standard Zedstar. See how stiff I am on the weekend. So it's likely to be the softest feeling of the balls. So we'll see where some of the numbers come on. I quite like that shot.
Aye, that were good.
So spin point of view, that's fairly low. I'm just going to double check, that's fairly low. 4240, I'm going to do one more just to make absolutely sure with that. That was a bit of a cleaner hit. There we go. So very
Nice.
square hit, so that'll be,
Nice.
yeah, long game was good this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, 4-7 on spin, that was a bit more like it. So, you know, it's a, yeah, upper mid launch, but it's a very neutral. I'm not a high spinner with my irons. I get plenty of height, but that's about where I'd expect to sit, around 5,000 odds. So pretty neutral. If I go to the, this is the diamond. Let's go to the XV next. So XV, slightly harder feeling ball for certain. So you can definitely hear more of a click off the club face with that. So that was well hit, so we'll see what that comes out with. So, 5-2, and this is where, in theory, it should be lower spin ball. Player to player, it can vary a little bit. I've generally never seen that much difference in spin between the Zedstar and the XV, but in principle, the XV is more going to be lower spin with the driver, in theory, but certainly a harder feel. And then we go to the diamond. The diamond's quite an interesting one because this is one that quite a few of the pros have played, but is the highest spin of them, but again, a harder sound and feel. So, I've nearly missed that. You'll find out what low out the heel does.
Still pretty straight.
Let's give it one more very quickly to give some proper data. So again, little harder again from a feel point of view than the XV. That's got a missed spin read. That's definitely a missed spin read, seeing it arrowing like that, yeah. Right, one more. Because that's not 1800 revs of spin that should be getting. Yeah, so for me, I find this ball a little bit clicky, a little bit hard sounding, which is why I kind of, when the Pro V1X was the lowest spin ball, I switched out of it because I found it a bit hard. But that's then up at 5.8. So the diamond, if you're a low spin iron player, is really good at kicking the spin up by an extra 500 or 600 revs. The other two similar on spin. You'll see more of a difference low spin with the XV with the driver than the Zedstar.
Very good, nice testing. We are coming to Dave Hurley. What's the best mental thoughts when you're -2 after 9, trying to keep it going on the back 9, ended up +2? Well, the best way is to break those 9 holes down into 3 blocks of 3. Set yourself your own personal par, and then that way you are blocking things off. I think blocks of 9 are too big, allows the mind to wander. That would be my best tip, to give yourself an opportunity to, as I say, set a personal par and then break it down into 3 blocks of 3.
Yeah, I'd say almost trying to, it's very difficult to not think about the score, but ultimately each shot you're just trying to do your best. And so the more you can kind of just try and hit your best shot each time, if you can let go of consequence, very hard to do, which is why most of us fail miserably at it. But the moment you can do that, then just, it's that whole thing of staying in the moment. You start to think ahead, it all falls apart. So yeah, just as Stuart said, the less you can focus on that end score and just carry on playing through the round, the better. But it's just really hard to do.
Freddie M, does the T200 utility iron have a robust face construction? Worried about face caving at high speed, 120 plus miles an hour. Heard people at similar speed struggling with the P790 braking quick.
I think anyone at those sort of speeds, and most of the time with any of the Titleist heads, the problems I've seen have not been with the face, it's been more the back plate coming out. However, if you're at 120, I'm assuming 120 is driver speed. If it's not, then you've got serious speed. The chances are that any of them, given an amount of use, they're trying to go thinner and thinner to get more speed. So at your pace, then that is on the extreme end of things. So there's a chance with all of them. They try to make them as robust as possible, but at that speed with all of them, there is a risk of failure.
We'd like to answer all of your questions. We are here for another 29 minutes, so do get those questions coming in to rhubarb and custard, as Mr. James Davey has put on the channel there. Didn't
Reminds
think
me of
that
a theme tune.
slipped past me there, Mr. Davey. Paul M, thanks for previous answers, Simon. Very informative. He usually is. One more, if I may. Wear mark on wedges are a little near the hosel, prone to the odd socket rocket, otherwise known as shank. 2 degrees flat lie angle. Lie change this, or is it technique? If it's absolute technique, the lie angle won't get rid of your shanks.
Although I have seen 2 upright can move it. If it is too upright, then actually what happens, the heel catches it, closes the face, and the ball can go into it.
Not by 2 degrees though, right?
I've seen it. I have seen it.
So you changed it by 2 degrees and they got rid of their shanks?
I have seen it, yeah. Rare.
Is that back in 1950?
No, I definitely have seen it. Yeah, yeah. But most of it is. I've seen it particularly with irons, where someone who I didn't believe it at first, but it definitely got rid of them. But
they'll all be trying it now. They'll all be trying it.
I can count on one hand in 20 years how many times that's been the case.
James Dota, evening Simon and Stuart. Interested in the Cosnarino trip. If you wouldn't mind providing further info, I have emailed Stuart. Thanks and love the content as always. Yes, you have, James, and I will be back to you tonight. I promise. My apologies. Chris Burgess bought Mizuno 225 with taper tour KBS 95 grams, swing weight at C9. Will a heavier shaft take me back to D2?
So the KBS lights that come in those, they're either the dollar taper light or the KBS tour lights. They're a higher balance point shaft as well as being kind of lighter mid. So a shaft change may not get you all the way to D2 unless you go really extreme. Swing weight on its own is a marker for feel, but you shouldn't kind of go, right, if I've played that before, it must always be this. Ultimately, it's just whatever gets you the best timing. But there are other shafts that'll certainly get you up to kind of D0.5, D1 for sure, if you put the balance point down the bottom. But I can't tell you whether it's the right thing to do or not, but there are shafts that will help get it towards that.
Ebo 001, evening chaps. Not sure if this makes sense. Front on in the downswing, I have too much daylight between my right side and my right arm. Any ideas for a fix? So what you've got is something that looks like this. I'm tipping, so like your right arm is a little bit held back. The usual fix, or the best fix for that, is that your sternum is getting too far forwards in your downswing. If you think about it, the base of the golf swing hangs out between sternum and armpit in that region. Now, the more that you move your sternum past the golf ball, or the more the golf ball gets back, what tends to happen is that the right arm will drift away from the chest because it's buying you time to get the golf club. So as you then start to move the top half back, what actually ends up happening is the right arm starts to move forwards in front of your torso. So oddly, the width and the radius that you've got too much of over here on the way down, you want to actually move the weight back onto your right foot. Hit a couple of shots flat-footed and you'll really see how these arms suddenly accelerate, because if they didn't, you'd be dropping it out back here. So all of a sudden you start to get the arm a bit more in front and you start to unload it a little bit later as a drill. So hit some shots flat-footed. That will certainly help you get that right arm a little bit more in front of you. It's a common error, that one. And the instinct is that you create a big gap over here and then you just try to drag it even further towards the target, and actually you create a bigger disparity between the arm and the torso. Give that a try. Should help you.
I'll ask you on from here. Gary Sadville said, bunker tip was awesome last week. It really helped me tremendously. Thanks a lot. Flip not my son. Stu, could you talk a bit about pitching mechanics from varied lies in the rough around the green?
Varied rough around the green. So I think the greatest little tip and drill that I got way back in Australia was working on different strikes. Because what all of these lies around the green are all angle of attack dependent. If the ball's sat down, you need a steeper angle of attack. If the ball's sat up, in an ideal world, you would want a lighter angle of attack. So a great little drill is practicing 4 different strikes. The first one is hitting the golf ball fat. So you actually set up to it and you go ahead and try to hit the ground first, which is an odd feeling, but when you actually set out to do it, it can actually provide a little bit more control and feel with where the club is delivering. Then the second drill is taking the golf ball only. So no contact with the ground at all, and you just pick the ball off the top of the surface. So you've now lifted your arc up. Then what we want to do is go ball and turf. So now the low point has moved after the golf ball, ball and turf. And so if you think about what those 3 shots have done is the fat strike, your angle of attack is almost up on the ball. So that might be where the ball is really sat up high. Then if you just take the golf ball on its own, your angle of attack might be 0. Then when you move the strike point after the ball, you'd then be much steeper. And you can modulate that. You can really feel that when you're making those practice swings, you could make an angle of attack and a strike point way over here, which would feel like you're almost going to completely thin the ball. And so those 3 shots are really good for controlling those various angles of attack, and for pure base control, pure low point control of your golf swing is set up to the golf ball as you would do normally and hit it right in the belly of the golf ball and thin it along the floor. If you can control those 4 ingredients, pick one of them that fits the lie. So if the ball's sat up, you might want to just feel like you only take the golf ball. If the ball's a bit more sat down, you might want to use your low point later and later in the swing. It's a great drill for really controlling the base of the swing. I think my question, when I hear people say, can you talk me through how to play different shots around the green? It's like there's not enough understanding of what a shot requires. Why does a shot require more angle of attack? Why does a shot not require as much angle of attack? And when you understand that, simply earning the skill, or learning the skill, should I say, is the job in hand. And once you can do that on a mat, you can go out on the golf course tomorrow and play all of these different shots from all these different lies. So the more the ball sat down, steeper angle of attack. The more the ball sat up, the less angle of attack. Then all you do is you just choose the golf club that's going to best suit.
Yeah, it goes back to what you said earlier, isn't it? Read the lie.
Yeah.
If you've got the technique to play the different delivery styles, and you can read the lie, then you know what lie creates what kind of shot. If you get it right, what you've then got to do to deliver the club, and you pick the 2 in the club that match. And again, this is what all the best players do. They've rehearsed every lie and every delivery pattern so many times that they just know in a certain grass and a certain lie with a certain club, it comes out this way.
That's right. And I think my desire for my coaching channel on YouTube was to really put power back into the golfer's hands, to really start to think about the golf swing in a slightly different way, rather than this is what you do to play a 5-iron, this is what you do to play a driver. You understand that the ecosystem of how we move and how the golf club moves, and then you just put the different golf clubs with it, shift the ball position around, slightly different feel, and hey presto, off you go. The game is super easy, but when we get caught up in these trendy philosophies and finish positions and hold-offs and shaft lean and all that garbage, you will end up unraveling, because it might work for some and it won't work for others. Whereas if you actually start to appreciate how it all goes together, I think there's something there for everyone. And that little 4-strike drill is a great way to learning about control of angle of attack, strike and low point. And that ultimately is short game, isn't it? You go in a bunker, you need to understand that to get the ball out high, you need to have a really light angle of attack, so you need the lever to swing. And then you need to make sure that you've got the base of the golf swing in a bunker high so that you just skim the top of the sand. And it's no different for hitting a 5-iron out the fairway. You wouldn't hit a 5-iron out the fairway and take a divot and an angle of attack like a wedge. You want to have a lighter angle of attack. You need a more swinging lever. The ball is further forward. It's a different sensation. So the more that we understand all of these nuances that are within a golf swing, we then start to really own it a bit more, own the flight, own the shape, rather than just bludgeoning the golf club at the ball and just applying, oh, I'm coming over the top, so I'm forever and a day just going to work it from the inside generically.
And short game, I think, is obviously it's not all, but is so massively about confidence. And so once you've gone out and you've learned the skills and you say, right, I know if I do this, that's going to happen, then you play the shot positively as a result. You know, we've all done it. You stand over a shot and go, I did it yesterday. You can go, oh, don't quite fancy it, and you and you don't commit to it, and then you dunch it. Whereas if you go, right, I know if I do this, that happens, and oh, look, it goes quite well, because you make a nice free turn through and you collect the ball and you don't stall on it. And so, yeah, and that's the practice gives you the confidence to go out and do it. And that's something that all of us can do better, for sure.
Very much so. Ebo 001. Oh, I answered that one. Sorry, my apologies.
So you're going back
Ebo Gum. Freddie M. Comments about Dave Hurley asking about good mindset. Dave Hurley, I was once 4 under par after 9, then got a quad double on the 10th. Beautiful stories.
Yeah, we've all done it.
Good, yeah, absolutely.
Multiple times, yeah.
Aidan, would RTX 6 mid-grind or full grind be closer to Vokey D-grind?
The full grind, because the bounce sits a little bit later. The mid-grind has more of a rounded sole shape, so it actually peaks fairly high and it's got a fairly blunt leading edge, but for maximising the bounce, the D grind sits with a slightly kind of flatter sole and a higher peak. Let me go off screen. I will grab them to show you.
Scotty Holmes goes on to say, great informative golf suggestions. Love the channel. You are super welcome, Scotty. Thank you so much for those kind words. Scotty goes on to say, what is the trigger on releasing the club in transition? When you talk about releasing the club in transition, can you be a bit more specific? Because you don't really release the club through transition, you load the club in transition. So give me maybe a little bit more insights into what you're referring to, sir.
So I have a D grind Vokey here and the full grind Cleveland here. So the D grind, key thing with the D grind is it's got high peak and then graduates off, but it's that high peak that gives you that protection against going too deep. And if I hold the full grind up next to it, you'll see that actually the angle and the peak, I'll see if Jose's directing me to hold at the right height, the back edge of the full grind sits a bit further back, but the angles are very, very similar. The only thing it doesn't have is that trailed back edge can be ground into it. The mid grind has more of a roll up and over, so it just doesn't sit quite as high. Obviously a black finish, but you could argue that the back edge grind on the mid grind is a bit more like the D. The one thing that the mid grind has is a very, very sharp leading edge. So that's the one thing to be careful of with that. So I would tend to say if you're a little bit steeper, the D grind or the full grind are a little bit more protective against getting into the turf too quickly.
Very good indeed. Martin Williams, Bareen is fantastic. Not sure what he's referring to there.
I don't know.
Freddie M, is the difference between the Titleist MB versus the T Series more about launch differences and feel rather than performances differences on off-centre hits in terms of average dispersion, etc.?
So is MB to the T Series?
Correct.
So the T Series have tungsten in the heel and the toe, and that protects them off centre. As you go from the 100 to the 150 to the 200 to the 350, you get more and more and more ball speed progression off the face as well. So the MB is just a single piece forging, classic, very little forgiveness, maximum spin and flight control for the elite players, but basically zero margin of error for someone of a more moderate skill level. And so that really, with each progression through the T Series, you're getting more and more off-centre help.
Very good. If you're new to Monday Night Live, give us a like and a share and tell your friends. We'd love to have more people with us. Robin Morton, hi chaps. Is there a way to tell which Pro V1 or Pro V1 X is the high spin or low spin?
Yep, the Pro V1 X is the high spin, the Pro V1 is the mid spin, and the Pro V1 X left dash is the lowest spin, and it's written on the boxes.
There you go. Easy as that. Aidan, why would Justin Thomas seem to be working on getting his hands very high on the top of the backswing? What would this do? Make him more steep? I've asked myself that same question, my friend, because as far as I'm concerned, his leg action would need to be improved. He has to stall his body out because the bigger differential between arm plane that matches shoulder plane and above, the more you have to get that club back down onto the lower plane. And this right knee that kicks up is him stalling his body out to try and get the arms back down to strike. So for me, I'm with you. I think this continual arm lift is not something that I like to see in a golf swing. So I couldn't answer because I don't know what him and his dad work on. We'll see.
It seems to be a bit of a trend that you've got, obviously, Dustin, Scotty Scheffler, very, very high hands. Maybe because, I mean, it's something that works for them, but, it is Rahm high hands as well. No. But it's something that, certainly I always thought looking at Justin's swing, he's got got to snap out the way so much. The club's got to drop down and then move around that you're just adding complexity into it. But as you say, we don't know what they're working on. So.
Yeah. Ebo 001, thanks Stuart, you got it spot on. I lurch with the upper body first. We'll try planting weight on my right foot. Yeah, give that a try. And make some right arm swings with it as well when you're doing that, because that'll really help. Druss, I've been playing X100 shafts in my irons for many years now, but as I've got older, 50 plus, I'm really struggling to maintain the strength and speed to hit them. Well, what would S300s be better?
No. In a word, they're still two of the heaviest shafts on the market, and I used to go back to when I was playing full time. I was in an X100 or a Project X65, which are up at 130 grams. An S300 is actually slightly heavier than X100 by a gram or two. So actually, you'd be doing no benefit to yourself whatsoever. I played that weight for years. I'm now in something that's 113 grams, so I've taken 20% of the weight out, and I think that's something that you'll be used to the feel of having weight there. But yeah, do yourself a favour and change shaft completely.
Doug says bunker tips, chipping tips, ball comparisons, playing the Srixon Zedstar XV and loving it. Stop it. Great stuff, guys. Keep it up. You are super welcome.
You want us to carry on.
Yeah, no, stop it. Don't stop it. Give us a like and a share if you can while you're here. Would love to see a few more likes up there. It really helps our channel. Robin Morton, am a tight beep Yorkshireman and find most of my Pro Vs on the course. So can I repeat the question?
So that's fair comment. You must walk up the right side of many first holes. So the Pro V1, which is the black number, that is the, actually it's written on the side as well, that is the lower launch, lower spin. Let me get the ball so you can see these. Pro V1 X is a red number and is the mid spin. These are a little bit, we're getting some new balls in, these are a little bit tired, a couple of these, but they're the nearest to hand. And then the Pro V1 X left dash is also a red number. So the key thing is on the side of the ball, you've got, so you've got a red number or a black number. So the red number is the Pro V1 X. The other place is on the side of the ball. So you'll see on this one, there's a Pro V1, Pro V1 X, but the left dash has the little left dash to the side of it, and then the Pro V1 X is written with a slightly different markings around the wording. So they will say on them what they are. Just have a roll around the ball, but a red number is a Pro V1 X. Now the irony is that the Pro V1 X has both the lowest and the highest spin variant to it. So But yeah, if you read around the golf ball, you'll see both the type of ball and what colour the number is, and that can help you.
Well, since we're out of questions, we've got 10 minutes to go. I think we should go with nearest the pin.
What distance?
Well, why don't we do the 17th at Troon?
Oh, that's a long one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's or we can do ladies major Evian this week.
No, let's do the 17th at Troon.
Troon.
Let's do the 17th at Troon.
Screen back on. Yeah, no problem at all. Right.
Not that I've got anything against the ladies major at the Evian, of course.
Right, let's do. Are we just doing a nearest the pin?
Let's do nearest the pin, 3.
3 shots, right.
If you've got any more questions, feel free to fire them over. We will gladly answer.
Are we doing wind on this one?
Yeah, let's do some nice wind.
Right.
So Gary Satterfield, if you guys could only play one round of golf, what course would it be on? Ooh. Good question.
Right.
Kingston Heath for me in Australia. Kingston Heath.
Cypress Point.
Cypress Point.
Yeah.
Yep. Very, very nice. Connor Knight, profile of Ping Chrome X Flex for driver, please. Wanting a change from handcrafted even flow X Flex 75 gram driver shaft. Need launch.
So even flow. So the chrome is very stiff under the handle, so it's a firm feeling shaft, has a little bit more response than the tip, but very stout feeling. The even flow, but the balance is a little, in the chrome is a little higher up, whereas in the even flow, if it's the black, it's pretty neutral. If it's the blue, it's a little more on the tip end. So yeah, it's really about balance point difference. The chrome is going to swing a little lighter on the head than the even flow, but it's very stable under the handle. It's not going to make a massive difference to launch though. They're both very stout. So.
Now I'm feeling a little low on energy. I didn't get into my scratcher, my bed.
He's getting the excuses in already.
Until 1 o'clock this morning.
So we've got 10 miles an hour into off the right.
Into off the right.
Slightly into off the right. 10 miles an hour.
Well, 5 iron's not going to work then, is it?
214.
Right.
And as we know from this in the past, it was dead into.
Yeah.
If you take the miles an hour, double it up, and that's the amount of distance it'll take off.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So
come on, Stu boy.
9 miles an hour, so it's playing another 16, 17 yards longer, so it's playing the equivalent of about 230,
yeah.
in my reckoning.
So it's into, out the right?
Out the right, yeah.
Right. Come on, Stu.
I.e. tough.
Yeah. Oh, do you know what? I quite like that.
Just
I quite like that. Ooh. Come on, take a hop,
it's a
please.
Blooming good effort.
Oh, do you know what? I tell you what.
That's a blooming good effort.
There's going to be a lot of guys that would take that. 36 feet. 36 feet.
Although because it's not on the green, it adds a penalty.
Yeah, nice.
10%.
Nice. Nice.
Because golf requires an extra penalty.
I'm going to need to hit it a little harder.
What was that? You got your 4. And you're good in wind though.
Yeah, low spin, right?
Yeah, doesn't help me. Ooh, striker.
Go on.
Striker, it's got to be coming back, that one.
Come on.
You just laced it, or action replay. If I didn't know any better, I'd think you'd just hit the repeat button.
Get on!
Oh, very good.
Right. Here we go.
We all know what happens when you give Stuart something competitive.
You and me both become.
Yeah.
Right, come on. Need it just a little bit harder.
It's a long way for a 4-iron. Left it right?
A hair. But I think.
Yeah, not quite coming back. Those are 3 impressive shots.
Two out of 3 on the dance.
I was going to say, that's 3 very impressive shots.
2 out of 3 on the dance, so I'll take that.
Not surprised. I'd take it. So I'm actually clubbing up a little.
See if we've got any questions coming
in. I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna try stinging the 4-iron in, and if it's not enough, I'm going to the 2-iron.
One of my channel members, Billy Byrne, checking in. Thanks for being here, Billy.
All right. A little right, and we'll hit a little stingy draw, hopefully. I need to aim a little bit more right.
A little bit more
Yeah.
right.
That was also a bit stally and flippy.
Well, that doesn't look particularly nice over there, does it?
Right.
Not particularly nice.
Shocking. Right, let's just aim a little more right. Aim the face a bit more.
Oh.
Hmm.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he's got
So I'm sure I hit that.
Just had to have a think about it.
Oh, I've hit it better than I
no.
expected.
Oh no.
I've hit that straighter and better
Oh,
than
no.
I expected.
Straight, straight into bunker.
Right. No pressure. This actually shows how good Stu's 3 shots were, actually, to be fair, rather annoyingly. Right. Same thing, but just draw it a little bit more. I think I've left that right as well. Don't think my hands saved that enough. Oh, maybe.
Oh, coming back.
No.
Oh, still half decent. I mean, it's not bad.
But actually, it's bloody hard
It's hard
in that wind.
Hard.
Or
par
just
three.
as a whole, generally without any
Hard
wind.
par 3. Hard
Yeah.
par 3. Josh writes,
Yeah.
is Robin referring to 2017 switch of spin variant V1 and V1X?
Potentially. I mean, they did change back then that the X became the higher spin where it was always the lower spin. And reason being, it was easier to get the grip from the cover on the firmer core, but it also made more sense to have the higher launch ball as the higher spin ball rather than it being lower launch and higher spin and higher launch and lower spin. So it was a combination of things. But yeah, I mean, it is a while back now. If you think that's 7 years back now. So, but golfers still find it confusing because, well, they just always played that ball, and then someone says it doesn't do the same thing anymore. So yeah.
PS asks how to determine which grind is suitable for me pitching, chip and run light rough, heavy rough on a fairway and in the bunker.
Well, you've not asked too many questions there, Peter. So essentially, you're naturally someone who's a little bit steeper or a little bit shallower. So if you're someone with your general swings tends to pick the ball off the top a little bit more, then you're likely to suit a lower bounce profile. If you're like me, you tend to get a little bit steeper and take a chunk of divot with your wedges, then a little bit more bounce. So that as a base point is always a good way to look at it. Say if you're taking a good divot with your wedges, you need a bit of bounce. If you're nipping off the top, you don't need an awful lot. But other than that, it's just a case of wedges really bounce-wise, really, the benefit of getting a wedge fitted properly means it gives you the versatility for those short game shots.
Flip my son, or flip not my son, Stu, thanks for earlier regarding greenside pitching. You are super welcome. Expanding on basic pitching and chipping and going from your latest short game video, safe to say club head never behind the hands, hip to hip. Potentially. I'm not going to go sweeping statement because it depends on the flight and spin that you're trying to create. As a basic pitch shot, absolutely. Club head and the handle should orientate up and down that setup angle of the shaft, if that makes sense to you. But maybe I'll do a little video on that. And at that point, we have reached our hour-long show.
Flown again.
Yeah, always does on a Monday. Golf for you this week?
It depends if there's thunder and lightning around.
Does the wife know?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Didn't drop you in it. James, cutting any fingers off this week?
Camping on Friday
Oh, glamping.
with my daughter.
Oh, fantastic.
In the rain.
In the rain, yeah, well, best of luck with that, James.
What about you? Anything?
2 nights.
2 nights.
2 nights. Bit of coaching for me, bit of YouTube content, and getting ready for the Open, which is the week after.
Next week, yeah.
It's exciting.
Ladies major this week, men's major next week, senior major the following week.
I know, plenty going on. Well, as usual, we've really enjoyed having you along for our Monday Night Live. If you enjoy our content, do give us a like, a share, and do consider subscribing while you're here. A big thanks to James on drums. I never really say that, but it's always appreciated. He does super well with the edit and the videos. Simon, knowledge is unparalleled, and it's always so nice to hear him talk about the equipment in the way he does, and it just flows off the tongue. So well done to you.
Likewise, technique-wise.
Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to catching you next week, Monday, 6 p.m. Have a great golfing week. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.